Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining us today for Major Players, where I try to bring you a major player for somebody in their industry. And today I have my man Fred Smith, um, marketing guy, helps a lot of people behind the scenes. He's done some really big things, and I wanted to kind of make sure to introduce him to you guys as well as I get the opportunity to spend some time with him as well. So, Fred, thank you, man, for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. I know we've known each other for years. Now it's finally time to really unpack this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm super excited to be on.
For sure, for sure. Thanks, man. So what I try to do is connect people with that who are playing a big game in their world. They're major players, and like I said, everybody should be connecting with people that are in power, people that are doing something big, and really learn, right? But the bigger thing for me is I like to find out like how people got started. Naturally, go ahead and tell people what you do and what you've built so far, and then I kind of wanted to kind of find out about young Fred. How's little Fred when he was young, and like what were your moments in life where you were like, hey, here's what I'm gonna do. So like, yeah, tell people a little bit about what you do about and the things that you've accomplished so far.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's
Yeah.
funny because Little Fred is still Big Fred. And that was one of the big things I always wanted to do because I'm from the inner
Mm,
city. And I like to tell people when you hear this voice speaking this way, it's because I was professionally trained in the Marine Corps to be a broadcaster.
mm.
And so I've done over 1,200 hours, hard hours in the Marines as a public affairs media relations specialist. I've been trained at some of the most elite schools on the planet. And I'm a combat vet as well. And a lot of my start got from the inner city. I knew I could do more, but the craziest thing about it was I used to walk a lot because we didn't have a car.
Yeah.
So I walked like a mile or two place around. I'm like, wait a minute, these guys are in multi-million dollar houses. Like why don't I have one? So
Mm.
I was always driven from a very young age to just figure that part out. I always used to fight for books in school. And then from there, I was homeless several times. I went on the road for a little bit, did door-to-door sales and crushed it on the door-to-door sales industry. Then I found myself becoming very dangerous because I learned the skill that everybody wants, which is really hardcore direct to consumer marketing, right?
Right.
So I pulled
Right.
back on that. I joined the Marine Corps because I started doing some crazy stuff on the road. And then from there, I learned this insane knowledge base. And my problem, like most vets, are when we get out, we don't know what to do next. And
Hmm.
I still have a security clearance. So I wound up going into the automotive industry, the car business, so I've done everything end to end short of owning a dealership. But just to make this long story short, I wind up scaling several companies in the finance and insurance sector of the car business from zero to a few hundred million. They all went to multi-billion dollar companies. They're still in existence to this day. I've also helped reestablish some curriculum. I was writing curriculum behind the scenes for one of the brands because they actually have a university. My wife got super sick, had to get off the road. She nearly died. So this is around the time when the pandemic happened. It's like all of this stuff going on. As soon as I get off the road from doing all of this crazy stuff, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you talking about capital raises. Like, I know what it's like to, hand people out those $1 million checks and get the flow going, right?
Right.
But I couldn't get my wife back. So I wind up jumping off the
Mm.
road. We hit the pandemic. That was crazy. But I was also known in the online marketing industry as well because I've been professionally trained in this stuff since 1995. So
Wow.
this is what I actually learned
Wow.
in the this is actually I learned all of this stuff in the Marine Corps before there even was an industry. So I've
Mm.
had to work for all of this to culminate to where we're at literally in 2026. And I think this is like the first full year where I can speak on everything that I've ever done from a legal viewpoint because a lot of stuff that I did was super high level. And at that level, you got non-competes, non-disclosures, non-solicitations, all of these nons. So, and then, my regular covenants from being in the Marine Corps. So I got all of that security clearance stuff handled. I got all my covenants handled. So now I'm like a free range agent out here just crushing with my agency. So super happy to be here.
Nice, man. Nice. Dude, thanks for being successful. That's first. There's a lot of people out there who are not successful. They're committed to not doing that. And then there's those that are. So I have a question for you, man. So like, how was it when you were growing up? Like, I know you said like, like everybody has their thing. I know you said built things up to $100 million companies. You work with some of the biggest car dealerships behind the scenes, and you work with some, big online people as well, big time. So, but like when you were growing up, like how was it around your household and your neighborhood, and like what kind of caught your attention aside from walking and seeing the houses? Like, but what was it like?
Well, it was rough. I mean, because you could barely walk. And it's funny because me and my buddy were talking a few years back, and he was like, it's funny, Fred, how the people's laps that we were sitting on were actually the murderers, right? So
Mm,
it's crazy to have that dynamic to know that that's where I came from, but it's still the essence of those lessons I've taken with me. So I have a lot of compassion and grace and understanding for people. But
yeah.
the whole goal is for us to really elevate and get the proper knowledge and information. And that's what I was yearning for all of those years because I knew what I was being taught was a product. I've always understood products from the very,
Mm.
very beginning. So negativity is a
How'd you
product.
understand that? Like, what was it about understanding products in your head that was like, dude, this just makes sense? What was that?
You know what? I think really, because I've had a chance to think about it, I was
Yeah.
just endowed with that capability.
Hmm.
But just because I was endowed with that capability doesn't mean that I could actually cultivate it and develop it into success. So I just overtly like knew. It just wasn't one of those things where I had to figure it out. Matter of fact, I wrote about it in one of the books that I did. And that's what I was talking about when I was 8 years old. I never forget. I was coming up there's athletic field where we're at, and it was like a rainy day. It was overcast and the sun was out on one side, kind of like you from Hawaii. You got the rainbow, and then I got 95 I-95 right here. I'm from Chester, so it's exit 6. Everybody knows where exit 6 is in Chester on the East Coast. And
Hmm.
I'm walking that. That's literally where I live at, is off that exit. So I was just like, man, I really know that I can do more in life. And I'm just willing to be open to just find out what it is. I
Right.
just I just
Right.
stayed that open my whole life, but also knew that I had to protect myself because again when you're that smart, people want to try to bully you, they want to try to fight you. This is before there were gangs and stuff like that. We had all the stuff that people in the hood know that we have. None of that has ever changed per se,
Hmm.
but I just chose not to be a part of it, and I just chose to really navigate my version of how I want my life to look. So I
Hmm.
always presented my future self first. Don't know how I thought of that either, quite frankly, but I
Yeah.
just knew that I had this hustle and drive and only got one life. Like I'm the guy who was in the hood calculating when I was going to die, sitting there crying like I don't know if I'm going to make it. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
real talk. I mean, I always just thought that way. So I've always fought towards keeping that vision with me all of this time.
Right. So what is it like a financial choice for you to be like, dude, because I always said like it's straight talk about money. So I'm like,
Mhm.
was money important or was getting out important? Because those are two separate goals. Because I know a lot of people who got out, but they didn't have any money. And then there's people who had
Well, to
money who
me,
never got out.
yeah, no, well, to me, they were both the same goal, and here's why.
Hmm.
Because some of the drug dealers I know couldn't keep they're always getting robbed, right?
Right.
So you can make the money. It's one thing to keep the money, it's
Yeah.
another thing to take it and grow it.
Right.
So for me, they're correlated in that respect because I'm like, okay, well, if I do make this money, what do most people do in the hood when they make money? They start getting the flashy cars, flashy clothes. It's a signal. It's just saying
Yeah.
I got something that you don't.
Right.
So I've always so my drive, yeah, I knew I needed to make money, but I needed to be smart about how I got it, and I also need to be
Hmm.
smart about how I projected that image because I needed to get stuff for myself to prove that I was still performing, right? That was
Right.
my reward for working, right, and
Right.
hustling.
Right.
But I also needed to not be so much to the point where people were looking at me. So I was one of those preps. That's how I got away with it. I was
Yeah.
a guy who was wearing the polo, the Lacoste, the stuff that people would look, oh, he's a nerd, he's this, he's that. I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, leaving me alone, and I'm making my money. That's all I want to do, and that's exactly what I did. So even before I could legally make money, I was like everybody else, just hustling. But I did read financial books. Matter of fact,
Hmm.
the first books that I ever read was something called the Hume Publication. I got that
Hmm. Okay.
when I was actually motivated to actually start mowing lawns, and then I got the whole financial series. What's a mutual fund? What's a CD? What's this?
Huh.
What's that? So I started learning that stuff at a very very young age, around that time when I was 7 or 8. That's how my mind has always worked. I've just been always thinking like, how can I get it? How can I get it? And my dad used to call himself that. He's like, hey, I'm the money maker. I'm like, okay, cool. What does that look like? Okay, well, you got all this stuff. So I was like, well, let me see if I can be the money maker too. That's what yeah, that's exactly how it went down.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And that's interesting because like the more I talk to people, I always find that there's this moment where like I always said there's these 2 points. They either had exposure or they had an experience. So, and some people have both, right? So you have exposure to money early on. So you start to get an idea of like, hey, this is how money works. This is investments, compounding interest. Well, one of my other buddies who's an attorney who was on here, he was talking about his dad. You see, read the Wall Street Journal to him. And then you also have the other guys who are just like, dude, I just knew what I didn't want, which is me. So, the
Yeah.
exposure or the experience was work hard, get a job, earn your money. But everyone who was doing that didn't really have anything. So it was like, dude, I don't want that. So like that experience is the driver. So that's interesting, and I'm happy you shared that,
Yeah.
man. So like, what was the thing that was like your tipping point moment where you're like, okay, I don't want this no more. I got to roll out, or I have to leave this environment and I got to go. Like, what was that for you?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. That's what I was going to say earlier. The
Hmm.
the thing that I realized at that point in time in my life, because I realized people could make money even despite the environment, and that's what I really focus in on, especially if you're from an environment where you've got nothing, right?
Hmm.
Money is an idea backed by confidence.
Right.
So if anybody has that idea, no matter where they're at in life,
Mm.
all they have to do is understand how the mechanisms of confidence works and be able to do it ethically and really provide a product in exchange for that confidence. And that's how you make your money. Because what I also do behind the scenes is a lot of high level writing and advertising for people so that they can, get their media done right, whether it's organic marketing or paid ads. And some of my clients, for a minimum at that point in time, we're doing $10 million a month in ad spend. That's what's called programmatic advertising. So that's
Right.
still an idea backed by confidence in order to get that money. So you have to really strategically plan what you're going to do and to be able to facilitate it so that you can consistently get it. And to me, that's the delineating factor.
Right. Right. So, man, that's crazy because like I'm always thinking about that. I'm like, I watch people who work with like $100 million companies. Some of my friends have done $1 billion in revenue, and I'm always thinking like, okay, to your point, we'll stick to like in your industry, like marketing. It's like, how valuable do you think marketing is when you're dealing at like with corporations, institutions, and or business owners at that level? Like when you look at their marketing, like what do you think is like, is it 90% effort? There's like that 90/10 or 80/20 rule. Like, is that apply in that situation for you too when you're looking at somebody's stuff? Like
You're gonna be
company
mad at
wise?
me, man.
No,
Yeah, you're
not
gonna be mad at me. I think it's only 2%, if that. Here's
really.
why. Yeah, here's why. I've been in too many rooms where everybody thinks that they have it figured out. And what
Mm,
they fail to realize is that there were probably 367 steps that you don't even have documented just to get to that P&L and that balance sheet. So if you really want to get it consistently, you have to be in alignment with what the product really is intended to do in the first place. Then you
mm.
have to strategically map that out. And then when you're able to strategically map that out, it'll tell you which parts of marketing needs to happen next. See, in this grifter economy, in this grifter market, a lot
And
of people focus on
what does
selling the
grift
shovel.
what does grifter mean? I hear a lot of
A,
people say that, but for the listeners,
got it.
what are
A
grifters?
grifter is a fancy word for a con man or somebody who's a confidence
Huh.
artist. They'll provide the confidence, but they can't deliver the goods.
Hmm.
So what
Are there a
happens
lot of people
is
doing that?
we and I can oh yeah, we can get to the history of that as well. I know
Really?
like the back of my hand. so
Okay.
so but the thing about it though is just that in those high level rooms, pride and ego really supersede even making the money. Like as an
Mm.
example, one time I was in a high level meeting and this agency blew like $14 million for like the first quarter, right? I
What
mean, this
agency
is
was that?
I
Can
can't
you, can
talk
you
about
say?
it.
Can you say?
Is
Next time,
yeah,
next
yeah.
time. Okay, all right.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, no names will be spoken. But the thing,
People want
the
to
thing
know.
about it
That's
though,
cool.
yeah, we're in the room, and it's my job as an advertising influencer to really give what's going on in the region or what's going on nationally. Because
Mm.
even though like you can have a successful advertising campaign, it could be luck if you don't know how you did it exactly. And what I
Mm.
focus in on, like if you look at people making hit after hit after hit, no matter what industry they're in, it's because they have a formula. So you have to be able to really quantify and make that formula into a living, breathing thing so that you're able to really throw money at it and it's going to grow. And this is the
Right.
part that conceptually people can't get because, oh, well, we made this kind of money before. We don't need to do this. We need to go in a different direction. I'm just like, well,
Mm.
why wouldn't you continue to reinforce what's working to begin with?
Right.
So between those rooms and all of those fights, that's what typically will actually causing a business, especially a capital company, to stall is because you have all of these people with these degrees, or they may not have ever talked to a dealer, or they may not have been actually a fit. Because I'm a field guy, but I also know how to speak at a very high level, so
Right.
I'm able to really capture the data end to end, and that's the secret, is to really be able to be in a position where you can capture the data end to end so that you can make an intelligent decision. Marketing is just going to be a byproduct of those correct decisions. So by the time you push that trigger to actually go out there to the market and advertise and market, it's
Yeah.
going to hit. Like, you
Got
have
it.
to look at it like a casino where you want to stack the odds in your favor versus just hopium and you're guessing, you're just spaghetti theory. I don't play like that. You have to engineer a lot of this stuff, especially at that level.
Right, right. And you said something interesting. I just want to clear this up too. You said a capital company, like, because I'm a real estate guy, so our thought process is you raise capital, you invested in real estate. Is that the same thing? So like you guys are generating capital to invest it in what products? Like, like your people, like how's that? What is that?
Yeah, so in the automotive world, I've only worked with one direct capital company internally, like launching a actual next arm of a capital company, right? So the way that that typically works is what we wanted to be able to do is enhance the value of the brand itself by offering a form of in-house financing through the original
Mm,
equipment manufacturer, the actual manufacturer itself. It still requires capital raise, but it's in the form more of automotive sales, not necessarily like a Series A raise or any other different ways that you want to do it when it comes to doing this. Non-accredited investors, right? There's a whole lot of different ways and different levels that you can raise capital. It's still principally the exact same thing.
mm,
You have to have strategic planning in place first to understand what that flow looks like when you reverse engineer it so that there are no hiccups. And that's how you get the speed going on as far as getting that capital influx coming in. Because
got it.
I've had to do it, and it's like whether it's a buy sell, or I've had to do, like, one of the last projects that I had to do, I had to help a dealer get $50 million. That's a capital raise. Or like we're like I had to dump $241 million one time. Like, I got some crazy stories as far as what I've had to do with capital,
Yeah.
but it's all the same thing. If you don't understand what the end product looks like, you can't get the strategic planning done. When you go to have those conversations, they won't make sense because you don't know, that person really doesn't know why you're in front of them. Everybody wants
Mm.
money, true, but how do you get it in a way to where it's in alignment with that other person's goals and values? And that's what I meant by marketing being 2%, and as much as 98% of really understanding how the flow goes both ways.
Right, right. Which is why, to your point, and you and I have talked about this, which is why it should be a separate entity, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, like we talk about being in a, having an actual marketing division and or marketing department and letting them deal with those things, which is what you focus on, right? Like you're like that from that perspective. What's one of the craziest for you when you look back, like you said, like, hey, I have the, $200 million or $50 million on the resume. What's one of the biggest transactions that you did that you were like, dude, like it started off a little janky, but I got it back on track and here's what happened. Like, what is that for you? Like, I'm curious.
Well, I've done two one call close multi-billion-dollar deals in my
Let's
life.
go.
And
Let's go, man.
it,
You brushed
yeah,
that under the rug
I,
like that's nothing, man. That's real. I love that.
well, the thing about it was, even though I say one call close, it took me 15 years to get there.
That's all right.
Because one of the guys who I know, as an example, he was highly successful when I first met him. And this is the thing, what I try to tell people. It's not like I'm just trying to come in there to, like, make you more successful, in as much as how can we turn a wrench or two this way or that way to make the flow increase. That's really how
Mm.
I look at it.
That's that 2%
So
thing you
so
talked about.
it's like, what?
That's that 2% thing you talked about.
100%. Yeah,
Mm.
100% for the 2%.
Right.
So when he first decided to come down to Southern California, me and him had a really good talk. He didn't quite know who I was. He didn't quite know why I should be in his dealerships. And then I told him why. I was like, look, man, I don't care if you see me, use me or not. All I know is that you just want to go back on your boat and go fishing, right? And then
Hmm.
he kicked his feet up on the desk and he was like, get your ass to work. And the rest was history. So, we wound up just building, making a lot of money together, doing things. So by the time it came down to him making so much money that he needed to have his little own insurance companies and his own capital companies, I was his guy because I earned that right to actually be there to ask him for that. Like, I was helping him with the training and development of the people in his business. Watch people
Hmm.
getting promoted from sales to finance, finance to managers and general managers, and they're expanding and buying stores left and right and here and there. So by the time it did come to that point where he was like, hey, I need one guy who I can put all my business and trust in, I was that guy. So
Right.
we flew up, me and my team, we had about 4 people there. And I was like, y'all don't move, y'all don't make no moves, y'all don't do this. I know this guy like the back of my hand. Don't do nothing dumb.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so we're talking. I give him a hug. Everybody's like, wait, he don't give everybody hugs. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I've earned that. That's first base. You don't want to do that. And I said the second one will be if and when he decides that he wants us to have lunch together, we're going to have lunch together. So y'all just
Mm.
chill. So he showed us the dealership, everything he was working on, and then second base was, hey, let's go do lunch. I said, we're doing real well because he's the type of person who'll just cut you off, won't think twice about it, and that's it. So we had lunch. And then I said, you guys chill, make conversation over here, make conversation over here. I didn't talk to him. I was talking to some other people because I already knew where we're at. And then I said, now the next step is going to be if and when he decides to invite us back into
Mm.
his office to talk more about the details, right?
Right.
So that was third base. So I was like, cool. So we go in there, everybody's all excited. I was like, let him speak, shut up, don't say anything because I know
Right.
how simple this is going to be. And
Mm.
he's like, Fred, if you can do this, then I'll give you all of my business. And that was literally like $1 billion deal. So we were
Mm.
able to do it, but the problem was we weren't readily equipped to deliver on what he wanted, even though we could do it on paper. The
Right.
company wasn't that developed out to get that volume of business.
Yeah.
And then, but we still wind up just through other things getting it handled, bring it in house a little bit faster. There's things that broke and bruised, and I'm like, hey guys, you know me, I'm gonna have to take a little bit out the bank because I'm not that guy. But we wind up facilitating getting the whole deal around, and then we did the exact same thing for non-branded products as well. So that's how that
Nice.
went.
There you go. Hey, you know what? If somebody gives you a check for $1 billion or gives you $1 billion worth of business or that level of opportunity, go make that happen. There's like all things
Yeah,
start. I get that, man. Congratulations on that, bro.
yeah, I
That's
appreciate that,
awesome.
brother, because it's still relationships. At the end of the day, no
Mm.
matter how much we try to do marketing and advertising, it's still relationships, man.
Yeah, yeah. And that, that brings me to my next question because you and I bumped into each other at an event and recently. And we were just talking about this yesterday as well. Like you're moving into this new space, like you were talking about building and branding and you know, the gates are the chains are off now, so you can build so what are you working on now, taking what you've got from, the all the experience you've had into what you're doing now? Like, because we're both in California. So what are you working on?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So basically, here's what I've always taught my people because I've
Mhm.
had, people I've trained thousands of people, whatever. My thing is business isn't business, business is people.
Right.
So what we have to do is really develop that idea to where it's crisp and it'll work with or without us talking about it. So
Hmm.
that's what I call signal clarity because long before there's a message, you have intent. So you have to cultivate that intent to a point where, as an example, we have a business entity. Like, I don't want to continually do all the work. You want your business to do all the work,
Right.
but you have to have a mind in your business in order for it to properly function. If we can get that properly transformed from your head into your business, your remote control is going to be your P&L and balance sheet, right?
Right.
But that requires us to really get the idea of not only where we're at right now, but
Hmm.
where we want to be at in the next 3 years. I don't say 5 years because that's a little too far out. 2 years
Right.
a little too premature. 3 years is just enough to really understand: is this the type of asset that I want? Is this the type of business I want? Is this the type of products I want to deliver? How's everything going? It's very quantifiable because
Yeah.
even though I can be a little bit woo woo with it, you need to have a lot high level of creativity in order to be able to really permeate that through your business. And Gen Z is a perfect example of that. Gen Z
Mm.
is all about results, all about authenticity. They're all about all of this stuff that we're talking about right now
Yeah.
because a lot of the fakeness, and this is the other reasons why search engine this is the reasons why I have an agency, because what
Mm.
people don't understand is that Google is now cutting grifters off and people who are not real and they're not they are who they say they
Mm.
are. We have this new concept called answer engine optimization where you are the expert, but you have to properly position yourself online. And there's a very specific, quantifiable, paint by numbers way that I know that you continually have to do so that you're consistent enough. So when somebody asks, "Hey Siri, blah 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 blah,"
Yeah.
you're the one that's being mentioned. So that's what I'm doing for businesses right now from a strategic viewpoint to really help get that idea that they really want to crystallize into their business. And
Yeah.
that way we can build it out through their marketing. We can build it out through their advertising. We can build it out
Mm.
through their operations. It's just one flow that comes from one singular thought. That's all.
Right. Right. And how is, I mean, because there's all the talk right now, there's a couple of things happening in the world, right? And it's all digital. So you figure for me, naturally, from a finance and real estate perspective, it's real estate, but there's Bitcoin, digital, but then there's AI. Those are the two big, those are the white elephants and those are the big boys on the block. How is that AI actually affecting what you're talking about? Because I notice this too. Like now I see videos that are online of people, but those videos are now not people. I'm like, dude, is this real? So like you said about the grifters or people who can't do what they say or their marketing and the marketing's not real. I'm sure that the process between AI, Google, all the social media platforms and marketing now have to intersect to the part to where it's how do you get that down? Aside from creating your own chat GTP in your office, it being, having an AI driven company, whether that's product services and or real estate capital raising like mine. How is that affecting what you see is happening now based on your model?
Yeah, well, it's just like you talked about before. It's about getting that money, right? So,
Yeah.
so AI in the context that I use it is just like water. It touches
Mm,
everything. So I know I'm also still on a few AI high level boards. I was around when before AI got launched into the public. Like I've been on some of these large language model things that I'm still working on behind the scenes. I got friends all over the place from chat all the way to Facebook.
nice.
So I have the behind the scenes. I appreciate that. I have the behind the scenes look as to exactly what it is, and I
Hmm.
give people the equivalent of 24 dollars polyester over at Walmart or $2,400 polyester over at Neiman Marcus. They're not the same thing. You have to understand the quality of AI and
Yeah.
what your exact intent is. So for the
Mm,
example of money, you want to be more of an operator. If you just want to be
mm.
somebody who's an end user, then you're just going to continually be an end user, so the money's going out, not coming in. As a creator, what we want to be able to do, we have to really get the idea that AI in the context that I'm talking about is
Yeah.
judge, jury, and executioner. Period.
Mm.
So I focus in on compliance.
Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So
Okay.
so I focus in on compliance, and what that means is whenever AI is going out now, we can go straight to there's a concept online called zero-based clicks. And what this means is people are looking for real information and real data, and they can bypass a lot of the traditional ways of getting information because they got
Mm.
their phones now, and all
Right.
they have to do is do an AI search. But
Hmm.
the AI searches aren't going to give you bad information. They're already sorting and sifting through and they're scoring the quality of the information that you're producing, like Bell Capital. They're looking
Right.
at the quality of information that you're scoring. And if you're worthy enough, then
Hmm.
guess what? They will mention you and then people will come to you, which is why there's actually a 70% chance that if you're found on an LLM like an OpenAI or a Gemini, that
Yeah.
people will trust you even more because it's a lot more of a direct connection now. There's
Got it.
not too many more of the newspapers or even some of the online marketing. That's the reasons why this stuff is suffering. And then these grifters are suffering because what they failed to realize was they weren't the experts. They were just selling a better shovel versus
Mm.
helping people actually get the gold. And that's the difference. And AI recognizes that right now. That's why
Right.
you literally have only 22 months, just like SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
You've only really got 22 months really to get it together and put your what they call a knowledge graph online a certain way
Yeah.
so that you will be the authority in your lane. And you
Right.
need to be highly specialized and have specific conversations. You can be a generalist like me when it comes to other things,
Hmm.
but AI wants to mention you and they want you to really be known for one thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean like you limit your ability. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
What I want to be known for online is signal clarity. Your signal is your thought, just like Napoleon Hill talks about thoughts are things. We want to
Mm.
take that signal and permeate it through the universe where it'll hit people the exact way you want them to. It'll hit
Hmm.
your entities the way that you want it to. The people who you want to do business with, you have a very specific conversation that resonates with those people. That's why my book creators, I talk about it called brand resonance and all of this stuff.
Mm. Yeah.
Just for this reason, because there's four basic, I got three fingers up. There are four basic elements that you have to have in order for this to really work these days. And I actually have an AEO manual specifically for this. Like, I don't hide anything
Hmm.
because it's so complicated to do. Like just search engine optimization itself has 21 different disciplines, but AI recognizes all of these things. So you have to speak human and you also have to speak computer in order to get the money these days.
Wow, wow. How do people
You got to
get your
speak
book?
both at the exact same time.
Where would someone find your book real fast? I don't want to miss that.
I can just drop you the PDF. That's not a problem. I'll drop you the PDF of both books. Not a big deal.
Okay, okay, perfect, man. That way, if
Yeah.
anybody's interested in that, they can reach out to you or anything like that. Man, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
because here's the
That's
thing.
interesting.
I don't really care if anybody uses my services. They have to understand this is the way life is moving in general. And if you don't
Hmm.
move this way, you're not going to be very well known very fast.
Right.
There's a huge gap that's going on right now, especially if you're trying to grow and like you got a capital company. Yeah, man, especially you talk about so just so you know, what you do specifically falls under YMYL guidelines. That's called your money, your life. Like literally what you're
Mm,
talking about is a significant amount of capital that will impact somebody's personal and professional lives, which means that's the reasons why it's a regulated industry. So when you're in
mm.
a regulated industry, it hits even harder these guidelines. And you got to notice stuff because if you don't notice stuff, then you can do everything you want. You wonder why you're not ranking or you wonder not why you're not getting clients.
Right. So it's not real estate
Oh
investments.
yeah, it's real estate. That's why it's so broad. When you're advertising online, it is real estate. That's why it's so broad.
Yeah.
But nobody can tell you how to like have a lifestyle brand where you're
Mm.
inspiring or motivating people. And people are like, well, what are you doing? Like I had people on my Facebook, I want your life. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I'm just living it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
I'm just living it. Like,
right, right. No, that's interesting. And I look at, and thanks for saying what you said, man. It's important because I was talking to my wife about this and we were talking about like how fast things are. And I was like, how many people missed major opportunities? So you figure, and you know this too, you figure the internet came out, social media came out, they missed it. Like we said, like people who are investing like for me, where we have a fund, right? So like the 506B, well, I won't go into the details, but to be able to crowdfund online, the beginning of that came and it's still happening. I think we're in the 10-year early phases of what that looks like. So I always tell people like just like AI, this run that people are on that they think that they may have missed is not even there yet. Raising capital online because it's still digital. To me, it's still like fintech, so it's banking, but it's using online platforms to get into real assets. It's in the incubator stage. So Bitcoin, capital raising online, and AI and digital marketing and stuff like that as an advancement. Some people feel like they missed the beginning. That's great, but I mean, everybody didn't have an iPhone when they first came out. We're all second movers, right? So,
yeah.
but
I don't
that's
see it
interesting.
that way. And I agree with you. I'm listening, but go ahead. I
Yeah,
don't, yeah,
no,
I think
like
it's perfect opportunity.
yeah, I do too. I do too. So like I feel like similar like you said, connecting with guys who actually know what they're doing, guys like yourself. Because you have the two types, right? You have the person who's operating the business or the technical guy, the guy that I'm a deal junkie. I love structuring deals. I learned the financial structures first, using real estate. But the grand scheme of things is like the way that we used to communicate or pick up the phone and call an owner or pick up the phone and call banks, that's great. But what they do is now they research you online, like you said. Is this person real? And I find
Yeah.
because people have contacted me to do deals, or they were like, "Hey, we're going to do this." I think it was like a $90 million deal I was going to do with somebody who was doing something else. I went online, there was zero about these people, zero. And what they were doing was legit, but the fact that there was nothing about them for me to research, I automatically pull back. And then later, my attorney was like, "Hey, great job finding that because there's some issues with those guys, and you spotted it." And it was early enough because I'm kind of at that age bracket where it's like I understand the internet and I geek out about learning and communicating with people. So I know like my world of real estate, raising capital, being connected with other human beings. I can connect with anyone around the world, and I feel like that part of the market is expanding, and it's still so early to the part to where if somebody doesn't get in the game, I say it every 5 to 10 years. I'm like, if you don't learn this, you will not have a business in 10 years. And
Yeah.
here's the scary part, and I think you said it, man. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna repeat it. If you don't learn this and use it and apply it, not you, but somebody else on your team at some point in the future, you won't have a business in 3 years because the people you work with now, 3 years from now, are going to be 10 years advanced the people who didn't start. Whether that's an individual, it's a company slash entrepreneur, you have a small organization or a big one. And it just is what it is. It's like, and you can't do all things. I know that. So at some point, like guys like yourself, man, like you're a blessing for a lot of people. And I mean, it's a money thing. Like, like this, what this is, right? We're talking about that, but if you don't do this, I mean, you got to generate revenue so you can expand this side.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's direct, and I agree with you. It's directly correlated to money. This is what people don't understand. It's like gone are the days when you can be online and get married on the first date. Like that. That's how it used to be. You
Yeah.
know, because even for me, I've had to. I'm Fred Smith. I am just now starting to like get some type of visibility because I'm competing with Fred Smith of FedEx. And I was talking to one of the guys.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not changing my name just because it's Fred Smith of FedEx. I'm like, he was a Marine. I'm a Marine. Okay, it makes it a lot tougher. So what? My thing is that's why I said you got to be really known for one thing. But the
Hmm.
thing about it though is that you have to understand this. Like people, this is what people don't understand. Most people are so technical. What I'm talking about is very fundamental. So
Hmm.
it's no different than Wayne Gretzky talking about you got to hit the puck in the direction of where the person's going, right? It's no
Right.
different than what we're doing. That's why I said you got to look 3 years out and
Hmm.
anticipate. There's enough data out here right now to see where the trends are. That means that you have to commit to what you're really doing, and you also have to be responsible for your publications and what you're producing out there as far as producing content. It doesn't necessarily have to be like we had talked about before. When people hear our conversation, they're going to know that we know what we're talking about, right? You don't
Right.
necessarily have to have this huge following because I'm telling you, I know micro influencers right now making multiple six figures per month and they're hardly known. You need
Mm.
to have just enough visibility. And that's why I was telling people with me personally, all my clients, I'm like, I don't care who you are, get a YouTube channel because that is a real hard asset, just like real estate that you're in right now. Like it is
Right.
that important that people
What do
don't
you
understand that
think about
concept.
my YouTube channel? You saw it the other day and you were
It's
like,
fire, man. It is straight fire, bro. I was just like, what? Like we need to go
what do you
because
think
that's
I
the
need to do
hardest
better
part
on
is really
there?
getting out there no matter what, huh?
Yeah. What do you think I need to do better with mines?
Well, that's what I say. Just really what we have to do is just do a little bit more of the public affairs, media relations stuff with you,
Mm, mm,
and just
mm.
really get that verbiage knocked down. There's also different parts of your products and your assets that we haven't had the conversation with yet. That maybe there's something, one or two things that have what they call enough TAM, total available market, where we
Right.
can just go in that one direction, iterate it, and then ultimately run ads to it. And that's the other reasons why I love YouTube advertising and also search engine marketing is that that's intent-based marketing. It's not social media where people are scrolling cat memes
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they see your ad. When they're on YouTube and they're on Google, they are actively looking for you. Like I'm telling people,
Mm.
like, look, wake up, like we are here. That's why they call it YouTube. You
Yeah.
literally have your own media channel now, and
Mm.
now Google and all these big players have recognized the fact that that is an asset. So you've got to build that out, even if it's not public. Who cares? Put your stuff out there and then don't think about it and pay a team so that they don't have to, because you're going to be the most critical part of you. Oh, I don't
Right.
like this. I don't like this. Or take two. People don't care about that. They want to get the knowledge that you
Yeah.
have.
Right.
Period.
Right. I totally agree
That's
with you,
what they
man.
that's what they want. In
Yeah.
exchange for that, when they finally do meet you, and I proved this one time. I didn't tell you this. This is when we first met. When we
Okay.
first met, I ran an ad down in San Diego. I got invited to like another conference, right? So I ran an ad, and then next thing you know, people at the conference was like, "Hey Fred, how's it going? Hey Fred, how's it going?" And they saw me running my ad because I knew exactly what they were looking for. And my buddy right next to me was just like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Well, because I understand what they want, and because I ran an
Mm.
ad and I know how to do all of this stuff." Next thing you know, I'm getting clients just from doing that. It is so simple to do, but you have to clear out a lot of the stuff that you've either been taught to believe that's incorrect, or you've got too many things on your plate. You can't too many things on your plate and you just can't focus on that one thing. You have to be able to focus in on that one thing.
Nice. Nice. Well, hey, man, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Thanks for the advice too. And you and I are going to be working on these things. But before, and I appreciate it, but before we jump, because again, this is about marketing, but it's like straight talk about marketing, straight talk about money. What is probably one of the things like you feel like it takes for somebody to become a major player in marketing?
Understand words.
Hmm.
As crazy as that sounds, we don't understand how much weight words really have. So, and I use this dumb example for all my clients. I'm like, when you were born, did your mom and dad go, Mama, Dad? Or did they have like a 20 PowerPoint presentation going, Mama, Dad? That's weird. Like nobody grew up like that.
Right.
I and I had flashcards, right? But really understanding the words of why you're saying what you're saying helps you identify and connect the verbiage that your audience is saying as well. That's
Mm,
why it's important to really understand what you're communicating. That's why, if people really had to ask me, what do I do? I'm a communicator. Like, I understand words. I understand that words have real meaning. And then I have to understand where that word needs to go for that particular audience that I'm talking to. Because some of my audience isn't on YouTube. They could be on, like, my audience could be on Reddit. You follow me? Like, you have to
right.
really understand that. And then that will teach you where you need to put your marketing. So it still goes back to understanding words so that you can strategically plan. Without that signal being clear enough, it's going to be hard to get those words right. That's why I focus in on signal clarity first.
Got it. Got it. Well, hey man, dude, that's deep. Like, and I'm gonna make sure to kind of be aware of that too. And you and I are gonna be doing some stuff together. So thanks a lot for coming on the show with me today, doing this interview. I got a lot from it, dude. I learned a lot. And anybody I'm sure watching it will learn a lot. I appreciate you. If anybody wants to look you up, find Fred Smith. I'm sure he's probably on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these other places, man. Great guy. I really appreciate it. I wouldn't just say that. So thank you.
Thank you.
But for sure, man. Dude, I'm excited. You got me excited. You got me wanting to go get some work done.